Wyndham Lawrence Rotunda was born in Brooksville, Florida on May 23, 1987. He attended Hernando High School, where he became a state wrestling champion, and he also played football on both sides of the line. He initially played at California Junior College, but then earned himself a scholarship to Troy University, where he played for 2 more years. It was at that point he decided, I think I'm going to go ahead and get into the family business of being a professional wrestler instead. Where you see, Wyndham was not only the son of Mike Rotunda, also the nephew and great-nephew of Barry Wyndham and Blackjack Mulligan. Because of his pedigree, Wyndham did not have to spend much time on the independent circuits, if any at all. There's no documented case of him wrestling a match on the indies anywhere. Basically, as soon as he decided to become a wrestler, he was put in to the training regimens of the WWE, which at this time was just known as Florida Championship Wrestling, which basically predated the NXT that we know of today, but was also pre-WWE Performance Center. Eventually, he would be branded Duke Rotundo, where he was pretty quickly paired up with his brother Bo Rotundo, and they would become the FCW Florida Tag Team Champions fairly quickly. In June of 2010, Wyndham joined the second season of the show NXT. See, at this time, NXT was more of a wrestling game show type of thing, and for this show, he was rebranded as Husky Harris, because he's a big guy, you see. He got eliminated. He basically went back to working for Florida Championship Wrestling. Then in October of 2010, Husky Harris and Michael McGillicuddy, they came up to the main roster to join the Nexus faction, which was headed by Wade Barrett at the time. Harris stayed around until early in the next year and was even a part of the CM Punk branded version called the New Nexus. After that, he was shipped back to FCW for further work. A lot of people would have probably quit at this point, but Wyndham was undeterred and kept grinding it out down in Florida Championship Wrestling for another year plus. However, it was in April of 2012 that he would make his first appearance under his brand new persona, and the one that would get introduced to the masses. Of course, I'm talking about his character known as Bray Wyatt. And in July of 2012, he officially debuted as Bray Wyatt on the NXT brand. Shortly after his debut there, he would suffer a torn pectoral muscle. He used that time to further develop his persona and also introduce his Wyatt family. Initially, he had one lackey by the name of Eli Cottonwood. Cottonwood wouldn't be long for the WWE waters. He was replaced by a pair of guys, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, and basically while Wyatt recovered from his injuries, he used that opportunity to basically be the manager for Rowan and Harper. About a year later, in the summer of 2013, it was decided that the act was ready and that they would go ahead and be called up to the WWE main roster. Vignettes for the family ended up airing as soon as the May 27th episode of Monday Night Raw, and then on the July 8th episode of Raw, the Wyatt family made their debut by going after none other than Kane. Bray Wyatt's first televised match for the main roster was a Ring of Fire match against Kane at SummerSlam 2013, and from there, Bray Wyatt was off to the races, and they definitely became one of the most memorable, one of the most over groups or acts, whatever you want to call them, on the WWE main roster. The group was so amazingly over that by WrestleMania 30, Bray Wyatt was feuding with John Cena. This will always be a point of contention for Bray Wyatt fans, as many believe that this loss to John Cena at WrestleMania 30 stalled his momentum and star power for quite some time. Wyatt still ended up, of course, with a very, very solid and memorable WWE career, but you have to wonder what everything would have looked like if Cena would have put him over that night. Bray Wyatt was then put in a match with The Undertaker. It's another case where a lot of his fans believe that he should have gotten the win on the big stage, but he ended up not doing so. He would split off by himself for a while, but then ultimately reform the Wyatt family, this time with an extra member by the name of Braun Strowman. In February, he won his first WWE Championship at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Just as a fan here, I want to say that this is just something that felt like it was just a couple couple years overdue. I think fans of his were happy that he became the WWE champion at this point, but it was one of those things where it felt more like an achievement award and just maybe didn't have quite the effect that it could have had if he would have won it a couple years earlier when he was perhaps hotter as a character. From there, he ended up in a semi-memorable tag team with Matt Hardy for a while, but ultimately Wyatt had to kind of feel like he was just kind of there, and he would be kind of right, I think. I think at this point he knew he had to do something to go ahead and turn his career around and launch it into its next chapter, which of course would be the Firefly Funhouse version of Bray Wyatt and its counterpart, The Fiend. Strange videos started popping up on WWE TV in April 2019. This played out like a really twisted version of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I mean, essentially that's what it is. And of course, this character was a bit darker, perhaps a bit scarier than his stuff as Bray Wyatt, the cult leader, beforehand, but they were basically using the same playbook. The character would come out, scarily attack people, then eventually have a match with someone, and then rinse, repeat, rinse again. The character was really just getting going right in early 2020. The Fiend was actually poised to go into WrestleMania as the champion that year, but lost it at the last minute to Goldberg. And instead, we got John Cena challenging The Fiend. They ended up having a very memorable encounter in the Firefly Funhouse match. It seems like during this time as well, we first kind of started hearing about the health problems that he was having. But Wyatt was back as The Fiend heading into WrestleMania 37, where he was to have a showdown with Randy Orton. Guess I should also note here that The Fiend, over the course of time, had been joined by Alexa Bliss, basically as a weird character on the Firefly Funhouse show and a disciple, and a way to further the gimmick along, because they were basically doing one of these segments every week on Raw. It all ends kind of strangely because The Fiend ends up having a match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania 37. Alexa Bliss comes down and distracts The Fiend. The Fiend loses. They stare at each other. The place goes dark. They disappear. There's one last Firefly Funhouse segment the next night where Bray Wyatt just says something about looking forward to a new start. And then just like that, he was gone. We never saw anything else of The Fiend or of the character played by Alexa Bliss. And then on July 31st of 2021, Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, was officially released from his WWE contract. Over a year passes, and a lot of rumors circulate the wrestling internet community about Bray Wyatt and his health, whether it be mental or otherwise. There were a lot of things out there, but mainly a lot of people were just wanting him to come back to professional wrestling, come back to the WWE, and eventually we would get this. In September of 2022, WWE began teasing the return of Bray Wyatt by playing an a cappella version of White Rabbitt by Jefferson Airplane at live events. They also did the mysterious QR code gimmick as well. And on October 8th, 2022, Bray Wyatt returned to the WWE. This was basically a revamped version of his original Bray Wyatt gimmick with a new twist and some new characters, including a character by the name of Uncle Howdy, who would be played by his brother Bo Rotundo, aka Bo Dallas. Wyatt officially returned to action in January of 2023 at the WWE Royal Rumble, where he ended up defeating LA Knight in a pitch black match, and no one knew it at the time, but that ended up being it. That was the last time we would ever see the man wrestle. Wyatt would begin a program with Bobby Lashley in the lead up to WrestleMania 39, but that would be quickly dropped. Things were very mysterious. We started hearing more things about his health again, but by the summer of 2023, the word on the street was that he would possibly be returning soon. And then all of a sudden, on August 19th, 2023, Wyndham Rotunda ultimately passed away. Official cause of death is listed as the fact that Wyndham had pre-existing heart conditions, and after a brush with COVID-19, that triggered those heart conditions, and he ended up having a heart attack in his sleep. Of course, a very, very sad end for someone that was loved and revered by many, many wrestling fans and had quite the amazing future ahead of himself still in the wrestling business. The loss was so sudden and so jarring that I'm sure a lot of fans are still having difficulty processing it to this day. WWE Studios shortly began working on a documentary which they released in April 2024 titled Bray Wyatt Becoming Immortal, and it was heavily teased in this documentary that we would soon possibly be seeing the Uncle Howdy character and various other characters return to WWE TV, which in fact they did just a couple months later in June of 2024, a group of characters based on the Bray Wyatt lore called the Wyatt Six. At the end of the day, the man gave us a lot in a very little amount of time, roughly about 12 years, give or take, start to finish of his career and the time in which we knew him. His work will be preserved and enjoyed for wrestling fans to watch for years and years to come. At this time, I want to definitely thank you very much for watching. Do me a favor and leave me your favorite Bray Wyatt match or memory down in the comments. I'm also legally required to ask you to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button on your way out. We'll see you next time right here once again on Pro Wrestling Planet.